Good afternoon, Heat Nation. We're finally back to talking about the Heat. My name is Roy, and this will be my Worthless Half a Penny Part 36 about Miami Heat Media Day in general, but specifically a summary and my takes on Spo's interview. Again, this is the only host in the history of the internet who wholeheartedly and fully admits that he has no idea what he's talking about. Just for you to have an idea, I have no picks, of course, for today because we're still not doing that. But had I provided any of the picks that I had for this weekend, you would have lost some money because I had four small bets like I do. None of them coming out of my money, all of it 100% bonus and gift house arena, whatever you want to call it, money. But I lost all of the bets, some of them wildly. And a couple of them were collectives, so that just goes to show research doesn't do much. But what was my opinion? So first of all, what happened during media day? Nothing out of the ordinary, and that basically means no Jimmy Butler crazy look. Jimmy Butler went to the conference the same way that he finished last season. The photos are not going to be those emo photos or long hair, whatever the way that it used to be, Rastafari kind of hair. Those are not going to be the hairdos or the photos. Nobody's going to have to put an NBA 2K photo to replace Jimmy's. I think that there was kind of an understanding that ticked off Pat Riley more so than anybody else, and that because the results have not come, and the look is always at the front office for messing up and not getting Jimmy help. But now, of course, now the focus a little bit on Jimmy, right? Okay, Jimmy, you say you want to help, but at the same time, you're not helping the team throughout the regular season. And then when we did need you in the playoffs last season, you weren't available, and you still wrote a check that he couldn't cash, which is, oh, were I there, we would have beaten Boston. So all that uncomfortable situation, I think, led to the fact that first of all, we do have the situation of the option for Jimmy and the uncertainty that Jimmy's not going to be here next season. Even throughout the middle of the season, there could be a trade. Some people are more afraid of that than others. I'm not particularly afraid of that. I think that Jimmy's going to see his contract through to the playoffs, but we don't know what's going to happen later. It's sensible to think that there is a chance that Jimmy's not going to be with the team next season. So that's completely understandable. And so what do we see? We see a guy, first of all, we see all the other players come in, which I think is great. But then we see Jimmy Butler coming in and being serious and meaning business. And I think that that's important because when you're joking because you just came back from a trip to the finals that was very improbable, but you didn't make it to the finals, you're joking because you just came out of a trip to Game 7 of the ECF and you lost it by one shot. I understand that, but you don't do that after being, basically gentleman swept in the first round in 2023-24. So now, before the preseason, we can see that Jimmy is more focused on the game itself, not so much on gimmicks. And I think that's always a good thing. A lot of people still do criticize Tyler Hero for that. But I think it's unfair to criticize Tyler Hero so much for that because he likes his swagger, because he has his own different style, because he does commercials, but he also works. We always see that Hero is a guy that works hard. Whether or not that translates, and I think it does, in many ways, he works hard. And so criticizing Tyler Hero for doing all that, but not Jimmy Butler, finding Jimmy Butler funny because, of course, he has more credit, is understandable, but that's not what's happening right now. About Spo. Okay, so Spo words, about 24 minutes of an interview. I'm going to summarize it as much as I can and as quickly as I can. The first and most important thing that Spo says is that the entire team is healthy. That Terry Rozier is ready to go for the preseason. That was a concern. That Duncan Robinson is ready to go for the preseason. The only person, he says, that still has some work to do is Jay Rich. But he believes that he will also be ready to come early in the season, if not even just starting to start the regular season. Right now, there is no bench and there is no starting lineup. That's another thing that we repeat a lot of times. So this isn't about basically just, okay, we have Jay Rich and then he's going to start as a point guard. No, we don't know who's starting. We don't know. Everything is going to be based on merit. Nobody is going to be considered just because they have a reputation. That's something that I've repeated a few times as well. And also that they have to play smart to give the reps to all the players that need to get those reps, and also conserving the health of the team, which, in my opinion, should not translate into having a different starting lineup every week. And I don't think that Spo wants that either. And I don't think that that's what he meant. What I think he meant is, for example, Tyler Hero is not going to be a starter just because he deserves to be a starter, which I think is a good thing, because I don't think anybody deserves that. Of course, once you're paying a certain amount of money, we talked about that before, you want to put that guy to play, but at the same time, it's not how it goes. So health is number one thing that Spo says. We have it. He believes we're healthy. He believes we're ready to go. When asked about the fact that the Eastern Conference is more dangerous, he actually asked the reporter whether the reporter was nervous, because he looked afraid, he says.
When you look at the East this year, do you see a tougher challenge ahead? And when you look at your roster, do you see a roster on the same level or competitive with those remade teams?
Yes. You sound scared. Look, you have to be about it. You have to be about that competition.
I want you to put the word out there that we back up. Understand me? We back up.
But Spo isn't, because Spo believes that we are competitive, because we can't be competitive as long as we do what we need to do, as long as we show the potential that we have. And that's going to be a core part. He believes in our potential. We are going to be good to go. We're going to be as competitive as other teams. That's what he says. And I'm going to let you guys know what I think later. That's what he says. He thinks that we're going to be as competitive. And he says, Boston is coming into the season as if they deserve it, and they respect very much all of what they accomplished that season, but they're going to have to earn it. And the Heat has that mentality. So, he's basically kind of questioning, does Boston have that mentality? Do other teams have the mentality? They have to earn it, because he knows that his guys feel that mentality. And he feels like both the veterans and the young guys inherited that idea that they were very close to getting where they wanted to get, but they never achieved what they had set out to achieve and what they are still setting out to achieve. He feels more connected to Jimmy. I like what he said about Jimmy. That's something that gives me a little bit of more of like a more objective take, in the sense that, yeah, that makes sense. The way that he's talking about Jimmy, it shows that he likes Jimmy. It shows that Jimmy likes him. It shows that they were able to have a serious conversation and sincere conversation. So he says, it's not only that Jimmy listens to me better, but he also communicates better. And so there were a lot of things that were left unsaid because it was kind of a silence, a mutual understanding that they had. But right now, they actually put those things on the table. They actually talked about them. And so he knows that Jimmy expects him to coach in a certain way and at a certain level. He understands that. So he understands what Jimmy's asking of him. But he also understands that Jimmy now seems to understand very well what he wants of Jimmy. So there is a mutual understanding. Same thing. The relationship grows. And he says that more than a couple of times. The only core that he thinks in his head is Bam and Jimmy. There is no third person. There is no Bam, Jimmy, and Hero. There's no Bam, Jimmy, and Duncan. The two people that he thinks about when he talks about the Miami Heat and what are the Miami Heat sedimented in his mind are Jimmy and Bam. And then there is the rest. And it's not that he doesn't like the rest. He talks enthusiastically about the young people. He says everybody worked out so hard. Those people came back to play summer league games, like Nico, like Jaime. Those people who went to the Summer Olympics and they just wanted to go home, and how much work they put in. At the same time, he built that closer relationship to Bam in the Olympics, seeing a guy play in a different role, understanding what Bam can bring to the table, understanding that Bam is working hard to get to that point, and understanding that Bam is working on the skill set is actually helping him get to where he wants to basically go. So, what is my belief? And he also talks about Alex Berg, for example, being a Heat killer and saying that he has potential, he has experience, and that's what he wanted to add in terms of depth to the roster. Experience, right? That's what Berg has. He says that he started watching Little's videos and going in depth to see what he could find there, and then all of a sudden, the entire staff started watching those videos as well. He kind of caught on. In basically in that front office part. But what he says about Little, he said I think it's his sentiment about the team. The team has great potential. It says Little has unique potential. He's consistent. He's offensively oriented. He's aggressive, etc. So he just needs to be given that opportunity, right? Which in many of those past seasons we've seen given to undrafted players. In this case, it's not an undrafted player. It's to a player that, okay, maybe his future in the NBA wasn't certain. Maybe coming to the Heat is a good idea, and I believe it is. I know a lot of people wanted a blockbuster trade. There's just no blockbuster trade to be made. That's number one. Number two, the front office did fumble it a little bit because you could see, especially with what happened recently with the Knicks, you could see that there were things that could have been made. That it just seems like they weren't looking for. It seems like in many ways, especially financially, because of the financial situation, because of the limited in terms of assets, they were not even looking for something for someone in particular. They were looking for a couple of people maybe that they kind of figured they wouldn't materialize, but they weren't looking for something in particular. All they wanted was basically to bring this core and get into that untapped potential, the potential that they were never able to show because they got injuries. So he wants to see how everybody plays. He wants to see how everybody integrates into the system. No one is guaranteed. I think that it's kind of implied that Jimmy and Bam are guaranteed, but he says no one is guaranteed. Everybody's going to have to earn it. What I think is this. Spo believes that he has enough because he was never able to see it through. But he also believes that the veterans, mainly Jimmy Butler, but also Bam Adebayo, are getting a little bit tired of the fact that they always come close, but they never get it. They fumble a lot, and they also fumble a lot in the regular season. And I think that that's the part that he says, we just could not stay healthy, and therefore we were not able to show our potential. When Terry Rozier came to the game, injuries started happening that basically made things more difficult. And then he himself got injured, but he had Butler getting injured, right, in the playoffs. And Butler not playing a lot of the games in the regular season, not being eligible for the awards. Same thing, Bam Adebayo needs to come back into that part. Tyler Hero needs to come back into the part. So everybody being healthy, and he thinks that everybody is healthy right now. He believes that this team has a lot of potential. Does he believe that his team has potential to compete in the NBA? I think he believes that in a way of saying, yes, it's possible. But if you look into his soul, which is kind of something that you learn with time, but I could be wrong. I don't think that he believes that. I think that he knows that this team is limited and that this team can do so much. But he also knows something that fans should also kind of have it in their hearts. The team it's not like the team sucks. We've had iterations of the Miami Heat that sucked, that we knew would not go anywhere. That's not the case right now. And I agree, it's not the case. We have at least 2, 3, 4 players that have exceptional qualities, exceptional abilities. And I think that part is the part that let's see if this team that has been counted out so many times and has made the finals twice and has made a conference finals 3 times in the past 6 years, since basically the basic core of this team came along. He thinks that there is a romantic chance that the Miami Heat can compete. I don't think that he really thinks that we are good enough to compete as is. I think he thinks that we are good enough, that we can be better than good enough to compete. If that makes sense. In any case, talk too much. That's how it is. Let's go Heat. This is not my media day.